Merry Christmas, digital world. Welcome back to Spliced In Later and our very last Christmas episode, because it is only 1, 2, 3 sleeps until Christmas. It's getting here. It's very exciting. I am grossly unprepared. I have presents bought. They are not wrapped. They do not have the supplies to wrap them with, that's for sure. I have no food to eat for my guests when they come round for Christmas. Basically, we're in a bit of a panic mode, but we are still finding time for our last little Christmas celebration before we jump into the end of this nightmare of a year that was 2020. Once again, apologies if you hear any cats in the background. I have cats and they make noises. As promised last week, we are absolutely going to discuss my favorite Christmas movie of all time, The Muppet Christmas Carol, and why it is my absolute favorite one, because I've had many a discussion, both last year and this year, about favorite Christmas movies, and the belief that this is my favorite movie ranges from absolute agreement from many of you, to annoyance from some of you, to confusion, to indifference. Many different opinions of why this movie should or shouldn't be my favorite Christmas movie of all time. Indeed, it really depends on the moment, because as much as I love this movie as well, there are many other Christmas movies that I cherish completely that I absolutely have to watch around Christmas time. For instance, Jim Carrey's How the Grinch Stole Christmas, Arnold Schwarzenegger's Jingle All the Way, and Tim Allen's The Santa Claus. All great, fantastic movies that I've cherished as a child and I continue to cherish to this day. Not, of course, mentioning the It's a Wonderful Life. That is only a recent watch of mine that has become a cherished Christmas classic. Has certainly been a cherished Christmas classic for many people long before last year. And of course, rediscovering some old classics like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, or admitting that Die Hard is in fact a Christmas movie to allow that expansion of the genre for many other movies. I've just discovered that a lot of Shane Black movies that I adore, like Kiss Kiss Bang Bang and The Nice Guys, are actually set around Christmas time. So by these new rules, they can be considered Christmas films. So it's great. Plenty of Christmas films to see, tons and tons, enough to keep you entertained for the 24 days leading up until Christmas. But there are a number of reasons why The Muppet Christmas Carol is my absolute favorite. We're going to pick a few of them and we're going to single them out. And hopefully by the end of this episode, you will agree, you will understand, or at the very least, for some of you, you will take the time to actually watch this movie and look past any biased feelings you may have towards this film, any biased feelings you may have towards the Muppets as a whole, and just appreciate it for a Christmas movie based on a Christmas classic. So, point number 1 for why The Muppet Christmas Carol is my favorite Christmas movie is, of course, that it is adapting the pinnacle Christmas story, which is, of course, Charles Dickens's A Christmas Carol. If you are sitting there and you are going, I don't know what the Christmas Carol is, I don't believe you, but I'll give it a go to explain it anyway if you are unfamiliar. A Christmas Carol may be the most famous Christmas tale of all time, written by one of the best authors of all time, Charles Dickens, back in the old Victorian times. It's basically the complete opposite of It's a Wonderful Life, but the message is essentially the same, where It's a Wonderful Life takes a pure, honest, good, hardworking man and rewards him with the gift of Christmas and the Christmas spirit, and it revitalizes him. A Christmas Carol takes a terrible, nasty, piece of shit human being who's everything that Christmas isn't, in terms of kindness, joy, hopefulness, the gift of giving, the gift of pleasantry to all other people. It takes that person and very forcefully and violently shows them what their life was, what their life is now, what their life will become, having continued on this very nasty, terrible path. And of course, then through that example, the spirit of Christmas is visited upon this terrible person, but instead of, becoming even more evil, they of course rethink their whole life and come out the other side with the spirit of Christmas and giving and all of that, and they're ready to embrace the future in a more positive, happy life. Exactly. Ebenezer Scrooge is our protagonist of A Christmas Carol. He is the pinnacle of the Grinch type character for Christmas. Everything that is the anti-Christmas. A general anger and displeasure towards the fellow human beings, no idea of kindness, of giving, all about money and power and the prospect of all of that more over than the happiness of the fellow man. You cannot be happy unless you have money. You cannot be successful unless you have money. Happiness must be sacrificed so that you may rise to the top. And you must tread on anybody that gets in your way, anybody who is weaker or inferior to you. They must be sacrificed so that you may achieve your ultimate goal of all power, all money, all the time. In contrast to Scrooge is Mr. Bob Cratchit, who is his aide working in his company. Cratchit is the exact opposite of Scrooge in terms of his approach to Christmas and to his fellow human being. He loves Christmas, he loves giving, he loves his family. He is poor, but he does not let it bother him. He's not about to aim for the almighty dollar. He would like more money, of course, but his family's happiness and then peace of mind is more important to him than working all hours, all the day, all the time. He does it because he needs to feed his family, not because he needs the money. Scrooge steps all over Cratchit, all over the rest of his employers. Christmas is coming up. People are knocking on his door asking for gifts to the poor. Scrooge turns them away. Scrooge's own family come invite him to Christmas. He turns them away. The workers say, "Can we have Christmas off?" He's absolutely shocked by it. He says he will give them that, but he's going to take away all their money for the next 3 weeks. Terrible human being. When he goes home, he's visited by a spirit of his former partner, Jacob Marley, who is just like him in every way. Well, was like him until he died. He warns Scrooge that because he was like that, he's living in eternal damnation. He's being tormented. He has to wear terrible chains. And he, Scrooge, needs to completely rethink his life and turn everything around, or he's going to end up exactly the same. And to help with this lesson, 3 ghosts are coming. The ghost of Christmas past, the ghost of Christmas present, and of course, the ghost of Christmas yet to come. The ghost of Christmas past takes Scrooge back in time to see him as a young boy in an orphanage with no friends and no family. Moving on in the world where he starts taking a job where the possibility of chasing a life of happiness is presented to him in the forms of a young sweetheart and a boss that tries to teach him that it's all about Christmas is about having fun and celebrating with your fellow man, but he focuses more on the books and the money. Then we get the Christmas present, who shows him what Christmas is like on the day that's coming. The Cratchits are poor and miserable, but they have each other and they're happy. Scrooge's family are celebrating Christmas without him and they mock him at every turn. He sees the fun and excitement and merriness that he could be having if he chose to spend time with these people and accept Christmas. And then, of course, the ghost of Christmas yet to come. Essentially, the Grim Reaper shows up, shows him a horrible, dark, bleak future where, because of his actions, everybody has suffered immensely, most particularly the Cratchits, who suffer a tragedy of sorts, and of course Scrooge himself, who's headed for a very dark, miserable, lonely end if he doesn't straighten up and fly right. And of course, without spoiling it, because as I said at the start, I'd be very surprised if you are unfamiliar with this story, but you know watching a story like this, Christmas stories, that at the end, Scrooge is going to turn his life around. He's going to be overcome by the spirits and the messages that are presented to him, so that on Christmas Day, he is kept full of that Christmas spirit. He runs around giving people money, giving people hugs, throwing huge parties for everybody, visiting his family, telling the Cratchit how much he means to him and appreciates him and helping out his family and all of that. It is a very, very Christmas film full of all the Christmas lessons and learnings, a lot of dark themes and imagery in there, but overall a warm, happy story. This story has lasted for ages and has been adapted many, many, many times. Mickey Mouse has done a Christmas Carol. If you watch any TV show, sitcoms, they probably do a Christmas Carol spin at some point. There was a Bill Murray movie called Scrooged, which took the story into the present day, with Bill Murray as a Scrooge-like character at a cable company, cable network. And of course, there's even been documentaries and even true story movies such as The Man Who Invented Christmas, which shows how Charles Dickens came up with the story, what influenced him, the real life people that encouraged him to come up with the story of Scrooge and Cratchit and everybody else, and how that story has affected people. How people would go to theaters and just watch Charles Dickens just recite the story to them, and it would be the ultimate Christmas jump to get them in the mood for Christmas, and all of that. It's a splendid, lovely tale. Now, the reason why I think The Muppet Christmas Carol is the best adaptation of this story, not least of which the best Christmas movie of all time, is because of an experience I had in 2009 when Disney released A Christmas Carol, which was a Jim Carrey production. It is a great film. I also like this film too, but it is a live-action motion capture conglomeration of sorts. So it is animated, but Jim Carrey plays multiple characters. He plays Scrooge, he plays all the ghosts, and he acted in a way that the motion capture caught him and put it on to the animated figures. In a way that Ray Park did motion capture for Darth Maul in Star Wars The Clone Wars recently, but it was still an animated production. But Ray Park did the lightsaber fighting for that. You get the idea. I was very excited to see that because I loved The Muppet Christmas Carol so much, and I loved the story of A Christmas Carol so much that I wanted to go see it. And because it was a Disney movie, and shockingly it is rated PG, I was asked by my family if I could take a young child with me, just to keep her entertained. We were up at the Gold Coast in Australia here at the time. They were looking for something else to do. They wanted a break from the kids. So I said I would take this kid to A Christmas Carol and we will have a good time. Now, this Christmas Carol adaptation absolutely 100% fully adapted the Charles Dickens story, including the way they talk, very fancy Victorian ways, and the messages and the themes that are in Christmas Carol. There's a lot of religious themes, a lot of dark satanic themes. It's all in here. It makes for a very interesting but overwhelming story, especially if you are a young kid. This poor child that came to see A Christmas Carol with me started off fine, was doing great. Around the middle bit where the ghost of Christmas present turned from this jolly, happy, singing along man, he started shouting and screaming at Scrooge and he looked terribly angry. She started to feel a little scared, and I'm not gonna lie, I also felt a little uncomfortable too, because there were a lot of jump scares, creepy imagery. There was a lot of stuff going on. The ghost of Christmas present, which accurate to the story, because he only exists in the present, as he gets towards the end of his time with Scrooge, he deteriorates into this husk of a skeleton, which is horrifying to see. And then, of course, the ghost of Christmas yet to come shows up and absolutely scared the shit out of this poor girl, and scared me as well, with his skeleton creepy hands, and he opens up his robe and there's orphans clinging to his insides, there's horses shooting fire and devil eyes upon them. There's a lot going on. Now, it is an absolutely 100% faithful adaptation of A Christmas Carol, but it is not a Christmas movie, in my opinion, for all ages. And that's where the perfect Christmas movie needs to be. It needs to be a film for all ages. So, to get this Christmas Carol story across properly, to be as completely faithful to the adaptation as possible, and also not scare children half to death, you need something right on the money. And that's where A Muppet Christmas Carol comes in, because we have our wonderful Muppet protagonists. The movie is all Muppets, 90%, except for Scrooge, who is played by Michael Caine, which means you've got Kermit the Frog playing Bob Cratchit, Miss Piggy as his wife, Fonzie as Scrooge's old boss in the past, and then of course Gonzo and Rizzo, who are Charles Dickens and Rizzo, who are narrating and adapting the story as they go along and telling everybody what's happening. They bring a lot of light and levity to the story, yet it is still absolutely faithful to A Christmas Carol. All the characters are in here. Jacob Marley, who is a very disturbing individual when you see him in Christmas Carol's adaptations. He's played by, he's split into two characters because they're played by the two old men from the balcony, Statler and Waldorf. And while they show up as ghosts covered in chains, they're doing their Statler and Waldorf routine, which is telling terrible jokes. So you get the message of what's happened to them through the imagery and through what they're telling you, but they still keep the jokes coming so that you can relax and have a laugh alongside. The Ghost of Christmas Present is a jolly fat Muppet man who sings one of the most catchiest songs in the whole movie. It's exciting to see him. The message that he is telling Scrooge is to absolutely enjoy Christmas, enjoy the day. And you get that in this movie without the horrifying imagery of seeing him turn to dust before your eyes. I had a friend who recently rewatched this movie, and they would say the horrifying imagery is in The Ghost of Christmas Past because it's this weird Muppet doll. It's very strange. You'll have to watch the movie and decide that for yourself. All the Muppets are on brand. It's the same Muppet humor, tongue-in-cheek sort of stuff. They have the same sort of Muppet songs, which are catchy, but Christmassy. It all has a Christmas feel to it, everything that's going on. Nothing feels like this is just a Muppet stage show or just Muppets cashing in on the story. They are fully embracing the Christmas Carol story, and they are telling it to you, but they are telling it to you in a way that everybody can appreciate. If you're an older person and you like the Muppets, you'll like this film, especially if you enjoy tongue-in-cheek references, fourth wall breaking, references to other media. It's all in here. If you're a young kid and you just like puppets, you just like seeing Kermit and friends just bounce around singing songs, laughing, Rizzo falling 50 feet and landing in a candle, Swedish Chef doing his Swedish Chef stuff, you're going to like this film. There's going to be a lot going on there. So it's absolutely fun. It's delightful. It's absolutely rewatchable. It's completely faithful to the Christmas Carol story, and it doesn't keep you up at night as well. And finally, our last point for why this movie is my favorite and is so great is because of the performance of our only human in this movie, Michael Caine. I don't know if I've said this enough on this show, but Michael Caine is an absolute treasure of an actor and of a human being. Everything he is in, I love him in it, regardless if it's one of the greatest movies of all time, such as The Prestige, or absolute trash, such as Jaws the Revenge. When Michael Caine is in it, Michael Caine's character is always likable, interesting, intriguing, relatable. Michael Caine has this English charm and wit about him, which is delightful to watch. Even if he's being a villain of the piece, he's fun to watch. Even if he's a complete arsehole to everyone around him, he's fun to watch. He embraces the role of Scrooge fantastically. You could take Michael Caine and put him on stage playing Scrooge and he'd probably be right at home because he does everything that's supposed to be done for Scrooge. He takes in the Victorian themes, the Victorian talking, all of that, and he plays it completely straight. The way he interacts with all the Muppets around him, he acts completely as if they are real human beings and he is in Victorian London, and there's absolutely nothing strange about the fact that he is working with frogs and rabbits and bears and rats and everything else. All these Muppets, it's all just completely natural to him, and his transformation as Scrooge is genuine and real and complete. Obviously, he starts the film as complete trash. He says humbug all the time. He's nasty to everybody. And then as he goes through the story and he learns the lessons of Christmas, you believe that he has learnt the lesson of Christmas. So by the end of the movie, he embracing Christmas, buying turkeys for everybody, going around to Bob Cratchit's house with a joy in his heart. It's completely believable and you love it. I don't believe Michael Caine sings much in this movie. Maybe a little bit. I don't know if Michael Caine is a singer, but he moves along with the singing songs regardless. The Muppets are singing around him. He dances. He does this little Michael Caine dance when the Ghost of Christmas Present is singing their song, where he just sort of jumps back and forth and wiggles his hands. It's great. That's how I dance at most nightclubs. So absolutely 100% relatable. I only just recently learned as well through just learning about Christmas movies that Michael Caine chose to do this movie because he wanted to be in a movie that his kids could watch him in. Because Michael Caine did a lot of mature audience movies plus. So he went, this will be a movie that my kids can see me in. Which absolutely hammers home my original point that this is a movie for all ages. Kids can watch this absolutely, no dramas at all. And the fact that Michael Caine did it so his kids could watch him in is something is delightful and charming, and I love it to bits. Now to wrap it up, I don't know if I've absolutely 100% explained to you or convinced people why A Muppet's Christmas Carol is my favorite. I think I've done alright. I think I've given you the point that A Christmas Carol is the pinnacle Christmas story. I've given you the point that, while that's true, it's not for all ages because there's a lot of serious themes and imagery in it. So to find the perfect adaptation for all ages is great. The Muppets is a great vehicle to take an adult piece and bring it down to all ages. Muppets themselves are delightful to watch in here. Whether it's Kermit, Gonzo, Rizzo, anybody, they all bring their standard Muppet humor to everything they're doing, and it's great to watch. And of course, Michael Caine playing Scrooge kills it, nails it. That he did it for his kids is just a cherry on top of his very believable, straight, metamorphical approach to playing Ebenezer Scrooge. I love this movie. I'm going to watch it right after I finish recording this. So, great movie. As I said in my old episode a year ago, it's my number one Christmas movie. If you want to know what my other favorite Christmas movies are, go have a look at that episode once again, see the countdown, and watch some of those movies. But definitely watch Muppet Christmas Carol, because it's fantastic. Thank you all for listening to me. I hope you have enjoyed. Merry Christmas to you all. This is my last Christmas themed episode, because next time I come at you, I don't think it will be Christmas exactly, but it's close enough, essentially. And I say that because there will probably be a bit of content coming your way over the next couple of weeks. I have scored some tickets to some movies, which I'm very anxious to see, because I want to get them in before my eventual top 10 movies of 2020. Because boy, does that need a revitalization. As much as I respect all movies, I'm not happy with my top 10 at the moment, so I'm hoping these next couple of movies I see are going to make it a more believable and more acceptable list. So look out in the next couple of days. I'll have a couple of reviews for you, and then the top 10 movies of 2020, which hopefully should be up just before the end of the year, but if not, immediately in 2021. But until I check in with you next, stay safe out there, be kind to one another, Merry Christmas as always. I hope you watch a Muppet Christmas Carol. But you've been spliced in later. Adios, muchachos. I'll catch you next time.